Hey guys, T-Bull here. Today I got a game in the New Orleans for you. I got Victor Einstein on the screen here. We'll get to the build in a second, but this new screen that I've been trying out, you guys seem to be giving me the feedback that you enjoy this. One of the benefits for me taking that screenshot is I actually get to check my build on some of these ships. I had steering gears on that slot too, which I think is fine. I got it down to like 4.2 or something. Rudder shift on my build, which is extremely good for a cruiser, but I'm trying to figure out exactly what the sweet spot is. I think it's probably right around 6 seconds, give or take, and if you put the prop mod on here and take the steering gears off, that's what you wind up with about. I think it's about 6.2, which is workable. Then you get the good prop, better takeoff velocity. So again, pictured on the screen, this game, it is a steering gears mod game, but I've since gone back, put on the prop mod, tested it, and I would recommend using that build more. So just a heads up there. You know, I always try and show whatever build I was using during that particular game, just so you're able to, you know, visually say, okay, that's what this thing looks like if it's got steering gears on, but not prop mod or whatever the case might be with the build. So anyway, FYI, that's what we're running here. Now, this is kind of it's a pretty good game in terms of the New Orleans, but I had a lot of people asking me about both American heavy cruisers, New Orleans and Pensacola, when I was asking you guys the other day which ship you wanted covered, so I figured I'd do one of these. I picked this game, though, because it allows us to talk about a lot of the main points for these type of American heavy cruiser type ships. First up, we'll see the AP performance there. I think it was a Queen Elizabeth opening salvo and waterline shot there. Queen Elizabeth, not the most heavily armored lower belt armor for battleships at tier 5, so you can get away with some of those British battleships shooting them waterline with this American, you know, really strong cruiser AP. There on the York, though, that was about a 16,000 K damage hit there, and if you got access to cruiser broadsides with this thing, blast away. Now, along with the British cruisers, you know, the American cruisers have improved penetration angles, which means normally when ships begin to angle at you, you'll cross into a threshold where it starts off no chance to bounce, then you cross into a threshold, there is a chance to bounce, and then you cross into the final threshold, auto bounce, which unless the guns are of sufficiently large caliber, you're pretty much guaranteed to bounce those shots if they hit that surface. So this improved penetration angle kind of keeps it away from that auto bounce, keeps it away, you know, it keeps it in the more preferable previous category, I guess. So you have more angle that there is no chance to bounce, more angle where there's slight chance to bounce as opposed to auto bounce. So that's how that works. That means AP, you're going to be able to get it into ships in terms of penetration a lot more efficiently than, say, the Germans, which also have very strong AP in terms of damage, but not as good in terms of the penetration. So more of a versatile shell. Now, if you compare this one to the Baltimore, it's not quite as strong there. The Baltimore, you can pen anything at like max range, and we'll see how the Alaska is when that comes out, but that AP on that is rumored to be amazing. So, you know, the American heavy cruiser line, it's all about the AP. I was getting into the commanders. People keep asking me, you know, I've been showing a couple games in these heavy cruisers lately, and Einstein's the build. Number one, he was part of the Halloween event. There's a PvE event that comes out on Halloween. I expect that to be back next year, most likely, and therefore I expect this commander along with the German battleship commander and the Japanese destroyer commander most likely will be back. So if you're around in October when that happens, I would assume you're gonna get a chance to get them. But as we're approaching the Alaska, and they're strongly suggesting that the American light cruisers are coming out next week, or next update, sorry. You know, there's going to be an opportunity to maybe even use 3 commanders on these American heavy cruisers. And I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking Kincaid might be a really strong contender here. And why do I think that? It's because the turret traverse is the bane of the Pensacola, the New Orleans, and it's not great on the Baltimore either. It gets a little bit better there. But that's why I run Einstein primarily, because his base trait, his inspiration, improves cruiser, turret traverse, and you can slot Ingenious on there. So you can basically make these ships have fairly decent turret traverse. But if you don't have Einstein yet, Kincaid still has access to the Ingenious perk, which people always kind of overlook the turret traverse aspect of it. That's one of the main draws of the Ingenious perk. Of course, you get the indicator telling you when you're targeted. Very valuable information, of course. But anyway, I guess that's all I really want to talk about commander builds. You need to overcome the really piss poor turret traverse, I guess is my point. Otherwise, you're stuck playing stationary behind islands. Then you can kind of deal with the turret traverse. Anytime you get stuck in an open water where you're turning type of a situation, though, you'll out-turn your guns. You're going to have a really hard time sustaining fire as you're trying to kite away. So anyway, that's my advice there. Figure out how you want to utilize your commander build to improve the turret traverse. There in that Queen Elizabeth, you could see that was our first salvo of HE against a non-destroyer target all match. And as soon as he kind of flashed more broadside, we went back to the AP. Now, part of the reason I picked this game is this section here kind of shows the pitfalls of having really good AP, especially in terms of penetration, is you get a little too mule-headed or a little too stubborn, and you keep shooting it. Like if I'm getting 490 or whatever this damage is, if I'm getting 900 per salvo on the Queen, when it's angled like this, I'm trying to hit the superstructure. But you're going to get much better results using the HE. Now, the AP is way better than the HE on this, but the HE is not completely worthless. Again, like if you compare it to the Germans, it has really crappy HE shells. This is a little bit better. So when the situation calls for it, just switch to those HE shells. Now here you can see we were figuring out as we were detected there, and all the ships that were potentially visibly shown on the map that could potentially spot us, they were out of our range. So we kind of turned around to begin with, or we were about to kind of pursue this destroyer a little bit. Then we had a torp salvo come in, and so now we're kind of holding the side down here. Most of our team, everyone that spawned north of B, kind of lemming trained up towards that big island north of C. Now they're kind of just slowly drifting south. So I'm kind of playing over here as a stopgap type of a measure. There the Guidey does pop up though. And we do have AP loaded, so we discharge that shot. Decent damage, but it's mostly going to be over pens there. So as soon as that lands, or that shot's fired, we go switch back to the HE, and he of course disappears. Now I don't have a problem pushing that thing. Our sonar is currently active though, so by the time we get up there, that'll probably run out. The York is kind of a check on us. He's angled at us currently, so it's going to take a couple seconds to deal with this guy at least. AP loaded there. Again, switch over to the HE. Yeah, we're getting some decent damage there against cruisers, and you can really force that AP into those cruisers when they're angled. Just kind of aim up, the more angled they are, try and hit them into the turrets, into the superstructure behind there. But again, you can see that result there, a little bit more damage with the HE, plus we're getting some mod damage as well. So yeah, the AP's always functional. I think you can really damage pretty much every ship from every angle as long as you're aiming it properly. But the HE against certain angled targets is going to just be more reliable and easier to use. So, basically as a rule of thumb for these things, broadside cruisers and battleships, use the AP and then figure out the aim point based on the results you're getting. Destroyers, shoot them with HE every time you can. And then, angled stuff, maybe shoot the HE. But you gotta, like all ships, you gotta keep an eye on the shot indicators, but it's kind of more important for ships like this where you're not just primarily shooting HE. I was going to talk about defending yourself in these ships a little bit more. What you can see though, basically, if you're really steeply angled, you protect your citadel fairly well. That's kind of it. But since we've been talking pretty much about the guns the entire time, or the commander builds influencing the guns, I guess I'll finish off on the last kind of point about these is they're kind of still floaty. American type shells. No, they're not like Atlanta, shoot them at the moon and then drop straight down type of a shell. But still, you can arc over islands a lot better than, say, like a Russian cruiser or something. So that allows you to park closer to islands. And you saw in that early exchange we had in the game where I was shooting over the island, people kept targeting me according to Ingenious, but we didn't take any shots coming our way because they really couldn't get over those islands in terms of arcing. So that's an advantage there. Makes it a little harder to aim at range because the shots take longer to get there, but being able to utilize more islands more effectively, kind of the final aspect of those. So anyway, that ended up being mostly about the American heavy cruiser guns. If you liked it, thumbs up. New to the channel, subscribe. Questions, comments, leave below. Let me know what you think about the American heavy cruiser guns, and I'll see y'all later. All right, peace.